Travis Wayne Goodsell. After I did my video here, I then checked rune stones, runes, the rune language, because the Knights Templar I've known utilized the rune language of the Druids and added their little alterations for their codes. On the Kensington stone, for example, of 1362 in Wisconsin. And so, yeah, that is the connection. The Knights Templar did join with the Druid Goodsells back in 1300s, after the Teutonic Knights that I talk about here in this video of Prussia. So yes, there is a connection. Travis Wayne Goodsell. It appears that my family heritage has a lot more to do with LDS Church history than I realized. Goodsell originates from God Soul. It's not pronounced that way as distinctly. It's Godsoul, but God, and soul for sun. Sole, bende sole for the central time. If you remember that commercial back in the 80s. Back to the 80s. As far back as I've been able to find, I was able to find a Thomas Godsoul at the end of the 1500s, so the late 16th century, is that what it's called? As our earliest ancestor in England. And what I found is that the name is most common in Germany, but during that time frame it was called Prussia. And so I decided, well, let's check out Prussia, see what's going on there. So yes, it originated in 1525. And so I went, oh, okay. So sometime after Prussia became Prussia, they end up traveling, my family line ends up moving to England. Was this because they were sent there to expand the Prussian Empire, or did they flee? And it looks like they may have fled. And so when I get to the history, because what's interestingly is the flag for Prussia is the black eagle. Yeah, not good. But if you remember Ezekiel in 17 or 16, I think, is where Sodom was destroyed for not taking care of the poor rather than homosexuality, even though the church refuses to make the changes in the footnotes. But the other one, I'm pretty sure it's 17, is a parable about the last days Messiah, born in America, Mormon, as Joseph Smith calls him. And he is taken from the cedars of Lebanon by an eagle to America, specifically to his birthplace in the Oakland, Redwood, San Francisco Bay Area. What's interesting in the history is it starts off with the Teutonic Order. Now, you've heard me talk about the Knights Templar. This came after this order. In 1211, King Andrew II of Hungary granted Burzenland in Transylvania as a fiefdom to the Teutonic Knights, a German military order of crusading knights. So before the Knights Templar, there were the Crusaders, and they had different orders apparently. And so the Teutonic Knights were in the German area, but they were headquartered, as it says here, in the Kingdom of Jerusalem at Acre. In 1225, he expelled them. So, isn't that interesting? Just like the Knights Templar, one pope makes them rich and famous, and then the future one expels them. And then he transferred the operations to the Baltic Sea area. Well, they transferred their operations. So the Teutonic Knights then went to the Baltic Sea. Conrad I, the Polish Duke of Mosavia, had unsuccessfully attempted to conquer pagan Prussia in crusades in 1219 and 1222. In 1226, Duke Conrad invited the Teutonic Knights to conquer the Baltic Prussian tribes on his borders. So it goes on for multiple paragraphs here, talking about these Teutonic Knights. And I'm wondering, okay, it's just the Black Cross, which is not too dissimilar from the Knights Templar cross. Okay, so then we have the Duchy of Prussia in 1525, because, let's see, the Holy Roman Empire, why are you doing that? Go away. So I'm seeing 1466 for the Teutonic Knights part. And so the Duchy of Prussia begins in 1525. There was a Polish-Teutonic War, as they were, and it's again going over the Teutonic Knights again, and still 1400s, and then they go on to the Brandenburg Prussia. So here we get into the time frame of when my ancestors would have moved from this area to England. They, if I hadn't told you, and I don't think I did, they were Druids, and thus high priests, because sun god. Let's see, Brandenburg and Prussia united 2 generations later. In 1594, Anna, oops, we skipped some stuff here. They don't cover the time period. Granddaughter of Albert I and daughter of Duke Albert Frederick resigned, married her cousin Brandenburg. Albert Frederick died, granted the right of succession to the Duchy of Prussia, and then still a Polish fief. From this time, the Duchy of Prussia was in personal union with the Magistrate of Brandenburg, resulting state known as Brandenburg Prussia. That that's interesting, because it seems to be right after. So whatever happened right before this, they're not indicating here. Let's go down. Maybe this. Nope. Now Kingdom of Prussia, 1701. So they don't go over the time period as to why. So the Baltic Sea. I can't make the connection. They don't provide the information necessary for me. Interesting. So let's Druid orders in England. British Druid Order. History, founded in 1979. No, guys, come on. Not the right British Druid Order. Ancient Order of Druids. Maybe this is going to be more accurate. Doesn't say 1600s. 1781. That's not ancient, guys. Ancient is pre-Greek period. Anything from Greek to Constantine is called classical. Okay, is the senior Druidic order in the world and the oldest in continuous existence. It has been revived in London, England. Oh, okay. So it's pre-1781. Good. So here's the history. November, and it came on. Despite few semantic similarities, initiatory aspects of the use of regalia, the AOD, since its origins, it's completely distinct from Freemasonry. Okay. Not by the 19. It's not the. So they don't. Yeah, they don't talk about the ancient order. They start in the 1780s. Come on, guys. What does it take to get to the truth here? It's not ancient if it's 1780. History of the Druids, British heritage. Maybe this will be more accurate. Alright, who were the Druids? A history of Druidism in Britain. So yeah, the Stonehenge is attached to the Druids. So Druids were the priests of the early Celtic region, on the top rung of the three-tiered Celtic society consisting of serfs, warriors, and learned men. So we weren't serfs if we were sun gods, and we weren't warriors, so we would have been the learned men. Wait a minute. But in addition to their religious, so let's see, the role of judge, doctor, and scholar. They were educated through a long and grueling process of rote memorization. So yeah, we would have been learned men. To be learned is good if you hearken unto the counsel of the sun god. Let's see. You couldn't write down any of the religious teachings? That's going to cause problems in the future. What historical records we do have of the Druids, well, that's why we don't know anything about this period. A Greek writer who supposedly visited Gaul in the 2nd century. Okay. So did we come from Prussia then? Or were we there the whole time? But then why can't we find they didn't keep records? That's why I can't find anybody previous. So yeah, we were always in England, and we go back to the Stonehenge. That looks very much like the 9th Gate Temple. Here's the religious practices of Druids. Early historians also took note of what they considered to be Druids' barbaric religious practices. I'm a barbarian! In particular, they were appalled by the use of human sacrifice. Who? The historians or the Druids? The Romans reported that victims were tied to wicker. Oh, Wicker Man! Ah! Wicker Man is the movie of my people. Was it this video that... No, it was the previous video I did. Interesting. Very, very interesting. That's the one that's sitting here waiting for me to upload. I just finished saving it. Why can't Mormons be good? Alrighty. Okay, so the Romans reported that victims were tied to wicker effigies and burned alive. Wicker Man. A report substantiated by archaeological remains. Further evidence has been found of triple deaths, where a victim was simultaneously stoned, drowned, and impaled on a spear. Yay! The joys of my family. They became Mormon. Celtic religion did involve elements of ritual sacrifice, but Druids, and Celts in general, did not conceive of death the way in which we do today. Cardinal doctrine which they seek to teach is that souls do not die, but after death pass from one to another. The fear of death is cast aside. Yay, we were Star Trek. Klingons. Why couldn't I remember the name of the people? We were Klingons. Good day to die, Captain. Often sacrifice involved a ritual trade of a spiritual trade of sorts, sacrificing a less prominent member of society so one more prominent might survive. That's where the that came from the Assyrian documents, which I was taught in school about total solar eclipses. As the king went to battle far in the east, and all of a sudden a total solar eclipse occurred, and the king freaked out. You scribes and astrologers told me there was a good omen. Oops. We did it over our skies. And so he killed all the priests, and then appointed new priests, and then the new priests come in and say, well, sire, we're far in the east. That's why. Oh, so I killed them prematurely? Yes. Don't kill. However, no, there was the previous guy, the previous priests were the ones who suggested to sacrifice one of the common folk that went with the campaign and have him king for a day and then sacrifice him as the fulfillment of the sign of the total solar eclipse. And then I should look for that sign. Wikipedia has that. They have all of it. BCs into the futures. Yes, on multiple timelines. Wow, that would be an interesting thing to research, to find out the date of that solar eclipse in the east of Assyria. That would confirm that document. But yeah, and then his new priests, well, it was actually his actual priests who found out after they killed the guy that, oh, whoops, wait a minute. Yeah. And then they found out in the course of the battle that it was that king, because the solar eclipse occurred over their land, and so he died in battle, not the Assyrian king. So I screwed up that story, didn't I? But yeah, that's where that came from. Sacrificing a less prominent member of society so that somebody more important might survive. And we were the sun gods. It was all about that concept of the ancients. That's why the sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood. That's what they're referring to, guys. And in the last days, government will collapse. That's why the sign yesterday. Pay attention, guys. I know what I'm talking about, even though I mess up the stories. Let's see. The whole nation of Gala is greatly devoted to ritual observances. For that reason, those who were smitten with the more grievous maladies or who were engaged in perils of battle either sacrifice human victims or vow to do so. Yea, vengeance is mine, saith me. Employing the Druids as ministers for such sacrifice. Wow. They believe in effect that unless a man's life be paid, the majesty of immortal gods may not be appeased. So that's where the Jesus sacrifice comes in. Interesting. Fun. Alrighty. So there's a little history about me. And I get to upload Why Can't Mormons Be Good?